Undertoads, Amanda here. Usually I don't think games for older systems like the PlayStation 2 or Nintendo 64 aged very well to date. In no way do I mean that offensively either. These consoles have some of my favorite classics. However, one exception to them aging deals with a series that's still going to this day strong. When Final Fantasy VII came out, it was my first go at the game in this magnificent series. But it would take a few more years for me to finally pick up another. And when that time came, I finally played another, when Final Fantasy X arose to our lives. And to this day, this game still looks pretty damn good. Well, recently I needed to go back through and play one of my favorite in the Final Fantasy series, X. The premise for this is that Titus, who is a very handsome, talented blitzball player, is suddenly tossed into chaos as his hometown of Zanarkand is being destroyed. Auron and him are battling monsters, and before you know it, shit hits the fan. Auron leads him to sin, and Titus is no longer in a place he knows, but at a temple. AKA, he's in a new world called Spyra. Throughout gameplay, you travel to many eye-stunning locations, and in the beginning, you meet all the people who will be a part of your team in combat. You first meet Riku on a ship, and later on, one of my favorite characters because of his goofy personality, Wakka.
Well, you from the Zanarkand Daves, that was a good one, huh?
Now I talk about it aging wonderfully. Well, here's why. The game's cutscenes took forever for the creators to make, and back in 2001 when this released, sure, through most of the gameplay you had the typical PlayStation 2 models of everything. But then once you get to a cutscene, and trust me, before you know it, you're at another one, featuring two beautiful character models, beautifully textured. But no, I'm not talking about Lulu's rack, although along with other things in the clips, it looks stunning. Even today, they still hold up in age. The creators in this game used an updated version of their facial motion system, and by far is one of the top reasons why I idolize the development of the people in this game. Also, 10 was the first in the series to use voiceovers in the majority of their dialogue, this giving it even more of a personal touch to the gaming experience. And to this day, this RPG contains my favorite cutscene in Final Fantasy history. You know, the one with the water and Titus and Yuna. You get it if you played it. Okay, well, before I go on and on like a fangirl about how beautiful the game is, I'll talk about the actual gameplay. Well, Final Fantasy X plays just like any RPG. You find yourself starting out with Titus, and quickly enough, people join your team in combat against enemies. These teams contain players with different strengths and abilities. You have Titus, who's your main character, who wields a sword, and as you go along, you'll meet characters such as Lulu, who practices black magic, or Yuna, who's a summoner. Combat can sometimes come at you and make you jump a little because you weren't expecting it. Other times it's just a piece of cake using the right strategy.
A flyer! That's your department, right?
Some features in this RPG that separate it from ones before its time was the way the fighting style was organized. Being able to hit L1 to swap out for another character, or being able to do an overdrive attack. This style leads to a clean gameplay. One very amazing feature to the controls in this game, though, was the ability to play as Yuna. I loved being able to summon different Aeons in this game as it went on, and I felt it was one of the most compelling characters to use. The character development in Final Fantasy X is what I think is one of the best setups in the history of the series. Final Fantasy X is by far one of the hardest things to talk about and even begin to summarize, because it's a game filled with so much excellence. It's waiting to burst out, like a chocobo out of its shell.